taking the responsibility of the chair, I'm going to suggest that what we're going to do is we're going to switch the order of business because the one order we should probably take a very short amount of time, and that way our applicant won't have to be here for a very long time. And that, so we'll be going to new business, application 2024-269, tax map number 669-2-15, applicant Leonardo Castellano, okay. 34 Hudson Avenue, Chatham, New York. Reason for denial by the code officer per 110-50. Historic review to change paint color only. The exterior trim of the building around the windows and the doors only per color sample presented. So if I'm reading it correctly, all you want to do is just paint with a different color.
Yep, the trim of the window and the door.
Any questions from board members?
Do we have a paint sample on paper?
Yes. There was like a name and brand.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
That was emailed to everybody.
Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
we did email,
I didn't get that email, okay.
I put it in every, I think you came and picked it up.
Did you
That's
bring
what
a
I mean,
letter
it's
of
on paper.
authorization from your father to
Yes.
speak on this behalf? No, that simply says it's what he needs to bring.
No, we have the letter right there, the email that he's authorized to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and did it indicate that,
And the paint color is Benjamin Moore Split P 2146-30.
Yeah.
It's on the same email.
On the same email.
okay. Let me, just for the benefit of the board members, I went over to Harrington's today because I had hoped that the applicant would bring a copy of the actual paint chip with him, because
Well, that's one of the...
this paint chip is somebody's paint.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, okay. Now I want you to look at what the actual paint looks like, and you tell me how much similarity you see. It's the paint color on top. That's the color, the name and the color that was there. I mean, the sample shows 3 or 4 different shades of color. It's close there, but it's not close in the other locations at all. And, you know, I really think that we keep having the same scenario over and over again. And the building inspector needs to help us with this, in terms of the aspect of making sure that the applicant provides the paint chip showing the specific color, the manufacturer, and the...
It was requested, and that was what was provided.
Right, but that's not...
Well,
I understand. I'm
the
just-
job of the planning board, if you're not satisfied with the information, you then request it.
Right.
Yeah.
The other
So,
thing which would be...
If you want him to get an actual paint chip, you need to tell him that. Come back next month, I guess.
Yeah.
If
I requested
okay.
what
Well, let's
you
not
just
continue
requested.
the argument back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What we're
So you end up in a case that, and the other thing which I would say, which would be particularly helpful in these scenarios, is that you provide a picture of the front of the building and any sides on the exterior that you plan on painting,
Right.
and identify where you're actually painting
There.
the areas, because we've had people say they're doing the trim of the doors and windows, they've done the corner boards, they've done the overhang, they've done other
I
areas,
do everything.
and,
Not mentioned.
and they weren't mentioned in those areas.
Yeah, I got you.
And so, to make things flow smoothly, you know, what you provided for a paint sample does have some similarity to the paint chip, but there's a lot other areas with it that have no similarity at
So
all.
preferably the actual paint.
Here, right here, this is exactly what I just went to Harrington's today, this afternoon.
He's got it, so we're putting that.
Right.
I'm not here to make your life miserable, but I'm here to try to get things consistent in terms of how we review things in this board.
Right.
Is that when we say a paint chip, we don't mean somebody painting on a piece of paper. We
Right.
mean the actual paint chip from the manufacturer.
Oh, okay. I got
Okay?
you.
And,
That's what was requested.
right, but if the applicant, I guess what I would say is, if you didn't forward it to us, and you held the application until the applicant brought in the paint chip and brought in the elevation showing the locations, it would make things very smooth for us, okay?
Well, the code says if the planning board isn't satisfied with the application, then they can request further information.
I would have them initial and date the sample as to what the color is. Like I said, I don't mind having provided it, but it's entirely different than what,
I believe the top
Yeah.
right.
top one, it says split P and that's what the color was you said.
Yeah, the date and your initial.
And what was with the application should be removed from the application, so there's no confusion whatsoever that this is not what we're approving.
What I would suggest is, on this one right here, just say, see attached chip. I want to remove part of the application. That way there's no further mention of what we're really doing. Okay, yep. Anything else? What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve application 2024-269.
I'll second.
A motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 I'm going to go right down the board and check each person.
Aye.
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 Okay. Passes. Herb? You're done. Now, when we give this to the building inspector, she will then send a letter saying that it's okay. It's approved.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You as well.
I knew that was going to take too long.
Do that there.
Yeah. Okay, so now we go back to the order of business that we were doing before, and this would be application 2024-099, tax map number 66.6-1-19. Applicants J.C. and me, LLC, 19 Central Square, New York.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'd like to start over from where we were last meeting. And do it in a way that we do it for all the boards that I serve on. So I want to begin by presenting my credentials, so we all start on a level playing field. I'm going to read these so they go into the minutes of the meeting.
Are you good one?
Is that two copies?
Yeah.
Yeah, next one.
Yeah,
Moving up.
It's just one page.
You got it?
just one page.
Just one page.
So I'm going to begin, this is a bio prepared for my board responsibilities, both on the Federal Board of General Services Administration in Washington, D.C., under the federal government, and Landmarks Conservancy Board in New York City, in which I review work for the New York City Landmarks Commission. George Rinaldi began his private practice in 1976 with the groundbreaking project of the Federal Home Loan Bank Board building in Washington, D.C. This project became a pivotal moment in architectural and legal history as it involved the preservation of two landmark structures on the site. The project's controversial nature sparked a major lawsuit in federal court, the outcome of which ultimately shaped the current landmarks law governing the federal government. This early project highlighted Rinaldi's commitment to preserving historic architecture while advancing innovative design solutions. One of Rinaldi's early acclaimed works, the First of August shop, featured a new storefront designed in New York City, the restoration of the historic brownstone. The project was widely celebrated for its seamless integration of contemporary and traditional elements, significantly enhancing the New York City streetscape. It has been extensively published in journals, books, and continues to be referenced in historic architectural literature to this day. The Calendar School renovation and restoration in Newport, Rhode Island, further showcased Rinaldi's unique ability to blend modern design with historic structures. This forward-thinking project received widespread acclaim, was the subject of an article by the Historical Society of Newport, Rhode Island, was featured in a prominent exhibition at the Newport Art Association Museum, praised by the Society of Architectural Historians. Renowned architectural historian Professor William Jordy included it in his seminal book on Newport and Rhode Island architecture. Additionally, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Paul Goldberger wrote extensively about the project, which was also featured on the cover of Architectural Digest in Italy and the United States edition, of AD, which featured the renovation of the Reagan White House. The Calendar School was internationally recognized as part of an exhibition on adaptive reuse at the Centre Pompidou in Paris, France. The Fashion Center building on 7th Avenue in New York City marked another milestone in Rinaldi's career. The project involved the restoration of the historic building by Henry Ives Cobb, along with the integration of striking contemporary design elements. It received an honor award from the prestigious New York chapter of the American Institute of Architects, AIA. Esteemed architecture critic Herbert Muschamp highlighted the project in the New York Times, praising its successful blending of the original architecture with modern design innovations. Rinaldi's work on the Saratoga Avenue Community Center for the New York City Housing Authority in Brooklyn exemplified his talent for creating impactful architecture in historically significant contexts. The project was lauded by both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal for its innovative approach. Esteemed architecture critic A. Louise Huxtable celebrated the project, stating, I quote, "A building as good as Saratoga Avenue Community Center in Brownsville, Brooklyn, designed by George Rinaldi and built by the New York City Housing Authority, better known for its bottom-line public housing projects, deserves to have its presence shouted from the rooftops as a seriously fine demonstration of the art of architecture and as an example of the radically revised standards of being applied to public architecture." Beyond his architectural practice, George Rinaldi is deeply involved in advancing historic preservation and architectural standards. He serves on the board of the New York City Landmarks Conservancy, where he provides expert insights on projects reviewed by the New York City Landmarks Commission. Additionally, he's a peer reviewer for the General Services Administration, GSA, the federal government in Washington, D.C., evaluating other architects' designs to ensure compatibility with historic contexts in Washington and other major American cities. Through his extensive career, George Rinaldi has consistently demonstrated a commitment to blending contemporary design with historic architecture, creating projects that respect the past while embracing the future. His work continues to influence architectural discourse and inspires new approaches to preservation and innovation. I introduced that into the record because I think it needs to be heard, because it is contingent upon the material, I think, that's presented in our report on the project. So as we've written to the board, we appreciate the board's consideration of our proposed facade study and design for 19th Century Square, Chatham, New York. It's renowned for its architectural diversity, which captures the area's historical and cultural evolution. Its historical district showcases a range of architectural styles, each contributing to the town's story. Our design draws on this rich heritage, aiming to enhance Chatham's streetscape by merging tradition with contemporary elements, maintaining cohesion while respecting individual architectural character. Prominent Chatham landmarks such as the Federalist Inn at 2 Austerlitz Street, 1811, the Tammany Chatham Clock Tower of 1872, and the Spanish-style Crandall Theater of 1926, the modernist bank building, reflect the area's diverse architectural lineage. Examples of Victorian Beaux-Arts, Romanesque Revival, and early modernist styles are all seen in the buildings like Tracy Memorial Village and Union Depot, add further depth to Chatham's streetscape. And we have, of course, accompanying photographs of all of these elements, not only including the incredible variation, variety of period styles, material applications, colors to the site, but also the application of geometrical ornamentation, as you can see very clearly on the east side of Main Street, and the elaborate cornices, the metalwork surrounding doorways, the woodwork on the facade detail of the bar on Main Street, and other buildings, and as well, of course, in the now black and red addition, the black addition to the red building for the Schaefer Museum. Additionally, the town's recent approval of the Schaefer Museum project, which merges historic and modernist elements, illustrates Chatham's commitment to architectural evolution. Together, these buildings form a vibrant showcase of American architectural heritage, where historic preservation and innovation coexist harmoniously. Our design for 19 Central Square upholds this tradition by ensuring compatibility with Chatham streetscape. We have chosen a color scheme of muted earth tones to harmonize with the district's palette and designed the facade to stand independently, honoring each storefront's unique identity. We outline further designs featured below, incorporating our feedback from the board. Mahogany window frames reflecting Chatham's wood-framed architecture. These custom mahogany frames offer durability and resistance to weather. Mahogany's natural density minimizes warping, swelling, and frequent repairs, providing sustainable long-term upkeep. Additionally, its warm color and grain offer insulation, supporting energy efficiency and sustainable resource use. Copper roofing and skylight. Copper's longevity and recyclability make it ideal for our roof, where it will develop a patina over time, blending with Chatham's historic buildings. The integrated skylight maximizes natural lighting, reducing energy reliance and enhancing interior ambiance, while also connecting the indoor to the natural surroundings. The decorative copper panel. This copper panel introduces texture and artistry, reflecting Chatham's tradition of metalwork detailing. Its patina will evolve gracefully alongside neighboring historic structures, reinforcing the town's heritage while embodying sustainable design. The roof line. In response to the board's comments, we chose to align the roof height with the adjacent building, maintaining a cohesive streetscape and proportional rhythm while allowing for a distinct yet harmonious facade. The entry door is designed to standard scale and style. It's 3 feet 2 inches. The entry door complements the town's architectural vernacular, maintaining visual cohesion and accessibility with the historic streetscape. Rather than pursuing strict historical replication, we have embraced architectural interpretation, allowing our design to complement Chatham's historic surroundings without imitation. Replication risks creating a faux historic effect that detracts from both original and new structures. By drawing on local styles, proportions, and modern techniques, we foster continuity while honoring Chatham's architectural past and present. Our design for 19 Central Square will enhance Chatham's heritage, attract visitors to the town, support economic growth, and celebrate its architectural legacy, contributing to a vibrant, evolving community. And we thank you for reviewing our proposal. The accompanying items, you can see the site plan. It shows the paving pattern across all 3 of the storefronts, the notated facade with the rendering below it, so you can understand and identify all the building materials and their positions. And lastly, the page with 2 materials, the copper and the mahogany. We'll also tell you that we've already been approached by a publisher to publish the project. Already will start to emerge in the architectural community, and this will be in the Hudson Valley. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
My first question is to make sure you are going to do the whole front of the...
We're asking for approval for all 3 storefronts. The plan will be to eventually renovate all 3 storefronts.
Okay, so...
Did you say eventual, or is it with this?
Eventually.
So it's not within this application?
No, only this storefront and the paving.
Across
this
all
application.
front of all 3 buildings.
Yes.
Okay. The paving in the front is going all the way across.
And the,
But it's not part of this application?
The paving is, that's all.
What do you mean that's all? I'm sorry.
Not the other storefronts, just
Just
the
the
paving
paving in
and the
front.
single
Just the
storefront.
paving.
You're saying in the
In the
future,
future, there is a plan to, or there is thought to renovate the other 2 storefronts as well.
so speaking of the other storefronts, this is on a building, or it's 3 attached, I don't know if it's 1 building or 3 attached buildings.
It's 3
but-
separate structures.
3 separate structures, but they all are attached, and currently the one in the center is the highest height, and the one that is in front of us today, and then the other one on the other side have lower heights. So there is some sort of symmetry when you look at it, but in your renderings, you don't show us a picture of what the whole strip looks like. You just show what this building and the one adjacent to it look like together, which I see what you're doing with raising the height so that it's the same as the center building, but we're not seeing what it looks like with all three buildings, since all three buildings are attached.
You just help me?
I think you can see the third
I know what it
building.
currently looks like, I'm asking for a rendering
I
of
think
what.
you can see it in the rendering, if I'm not mistaken. At least
I don't
half of
see
the
it.
third building is there.
The only one where I see all three buildings is you can see. And
I think it's in the, you can see it in this one. Certainly.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see, so I guess what I'm trying to understand is what is the impact of the height change on the series of buildings that are all connected? Because when you, currently, the center building is the highest, and then you have the two side buildings, which are slightly lower, so there is some sort of symmetry there, even though they may not all be the same size. When you look at it straight on, we're looking at it across the street out the window. When you raise the height of this building, what impact does that have on the building on the other side?
So, our feeling is that they're not a single building, they're three identifiably separate buildings. They were not designed to be a group of buildings, they were designed as individual buildings that their heights are happenstance, they just happen to be the heights they are. There's no specific design intention for that, and just like the rest of the buildings in the town, there's incredible variations in the heights, there is no overall height
And they weren't built,
determination. As there are in
at the same
some
time.
cities, if you go to Washington DC, there's a height, there's an annual height in all buildings that are above a certain
Yeah.
square footage have to appear.
I
within a
understand, I
So-
understand.
And you can see the variability
I-
across the facade photographs of the town.
Yep, there's a
They're all
variety of
different
heights in town, I understand, but it was my understanding that those are attached buildings, they don't share walls.
They are separate buildings, and they are separate structures altogether, three separate buildings.
Okay. That's certainly not how it appears, but I guess I've never really studied it, so that close.
You can see it in the survey.
and they weren't built at the same time.
And they were not built at the same time.
Jennifer, did you get the email I sent in the file throughout the years, the different,
Yeah,
yeah, so.
which they're,
They
in
have
all
been
of those.
treated as different buildings all along.
Okay, because in all of those historic photos, there's three buildings.
Yeah, but you can see that they're all three have been
Okay.
different throughout the whole.
I'd like to keep in mind that the buildings eventually are all going to be remodeled. So I think that's a good point at this point.
I think the important part in going, if you're going to be remodeled, is if you plan on doing something down the line, that this is going to fit into that plan so that you don't have a problem.
Well,
later on.
since we're probably going to be the architect for that, I would assume that, yes, that will be the case. They will all continue with
I
that.
would hate to have to back and have to say, well, we didn't like it.
The reason I read my credentials is I want you to fully understand the breadth and depth of our experience in this. We're not amateurs, we're not a novice at this. We've been in this business for over 40 years. We're one of the best in the country. We're celebrated, we're part of the federal government, we're a civil land use commission. So our expertise is practically unparalleled in this. We do this better than just about anybody else does. So we retrofit new work into existing context, and we make sure that it all fits seamlessly and is quite beautiful at the end of the day.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have questions, and I guess what the easiest way to do it is take that front picture you have there, and there's horizontal battens on this building, is that correct?
Yes, there'll be 1 inch battens on the front. They won't wrap this far around, they actually stop because there's an existing wall. We didn't have the exact dimension on that wall.
So
It's about a foot.
The battens are 1 inch
They're 1 inch.
by 1 inch?
They are 1 inch by about 3/4 of an inch out.
Okay. And there's nothing indicating what the spacing is between the
That's
battens?
8 inches. The board width is 8 inches high. I think it's in relation.
That's the next to last page, I think.
Does it say 8 inches? I'm sorry if it did, I apologize. I didn't see it. That's why I'm asking these questions, because the information, I didn't pick it up.
Francis, will you see this page?
Yeah, Yes.
They're 8
But
inches.
but it doesn't give the dimensions of the battens or the space in between them, which is the reason I'm asking the questions, because, again, the details are important.
Well, we have to submit, and we will have to, as soon as we do all of our historic work, a full set of contract documents has to go to the building inspector prior to construction, of which every single thing is dimensioned, and all details are represented and drawn.
In terms of that building, looking at you have a paving, is that granite block paving?
Granite blocks, yes,
Okay.
granite pavers.
You show the paving going right up to the front of the building, but
Yes,
there's currently a brand new concrete apron there that sticks out about 3 feet. Are you planning on removing that?
yes.
Okay. Okay. No, wait a minute. Property owner was there, is that correct? You're gonna remove
No,
it?
that is absolutely correct. I just
Okay.
spent the money doing it though.
Okay.
So it's like,
I just wanted to make sure, because it's a little different from what I, and there, I'm putting down my own notes on here, so I'm sorry, it take a little time. They are granite blocks, okay? The pattern that's shown on here is not the same pattern that's shown on the site plan.
The site plan is a radial pattern. I'm sorry, it certainly is a radial pattern.
It looks like fish scale to me.
Well, that's
So
what
I
we
just-
produce
just
the
clear-
scale of the.
I understand,
of the,
just for
This is not a
clarification.
contract document.
No, but
This is
it's-
simply a representation of where the pattern will go.
Okay.
So
But-
what's in the rendering is more accurate.
But from the board's point of view, we're reviewing this from its appearance, visual, and compatibility.
Right.
So I'm just trying to clarify then, is the
I
pattern...
just, so let me clarify, I assume, Erin, the town has a policy, as is the case in most towns in New York, that the contract documents that come after proceeding with this, contract documents have to be submitted to the building department. The building department has to assess the compatibility with what was approved by the planning board to make sure that those two things are consonant. That's standard in most building departments in the state of New York. So I assume that that's the way this goes?
Yeah, whatever is approved,
Whatever's approved.
yeah.
If we approve
Yeah.
this pattern as
And
if
what we
it...
can't, unless you have the exact set of contract documents, we can't, in renderings of these, can't
Are
provide
you
all
in-
of that
Are you
information.
intending on using this shape pattern?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so the pattern we can expect to
Pattern
see
is
will be this
what's
pattern?
there, yes.
Okay, that's all I needed for an answer, just to clarify
Great.
that this is the pattern. Sure. Okay. In terms of the little landscaping and stuff that shows in the picture, is
That's
that-
what's there now.
okay, that's existing?
It's existing.
Okay. You mentioned when you read through the things and through the document you provided, which I appreciate, it was very well done, there's lots of good information in there. I'm curious, what style would you call this building? You talked about all these styles in the village of Chatham. I'm
It's
trying,
contemporary. It's what's current today.
so it's a contemporary
It's
style
contemporary style.
in an historic district.
Yes. Now, contemporary style covers an array of possibilities. You can look in architectural magazines today, and you can see new buildings that look like they put into a meat shredder, right? They're dissected, they look like they were an explosion in a tin can factory, they're not very well composed, they follow a style which is known as deconstruction. There are lots of avenues and venues within the contemporary style. Ours is a contemporary style that works very closely with the historic context of every environment that we work in. We try to make adjustments to have our alignments, our material applications, fulfill the feeling of those environments and have our buildings fit as comfortably as we can within that. But the contemporary style flies in a lot of different directions these days.
Right, but it's not as historic. It's an historic, it has some features maybe that you might classify as historic.
Yes.
But looking at this, one would say this is a contemporary style.
Yes, aligned with history, yes.
In keeping with the lines of the 1950s architecture, correct? Because part of it was built in the 1950s of that building.
I'm asking to
So,
what,
I just want to know, for historic, does that have a number that goes along
no,
with
there's
historic?
no number, it's terms of the aspect of fitting the surroundings.
I'm gonna
Okay.
make a suggestion, this is your building, you should come up to the table with us.
Another question I would have for you is the photo shows this bluish colored material,
It's green.
or green.
Yeah, I brought the material last meeting, if you
Okay.
remember.
That's copper, the patina is
It's
copper.
a patina, you can see the sample on the.
Is that the color it's going to be? Is that like a painted color on your
It's not a
house?
painted color, it's a natural finish to copper, it's what happens to copper
It's like
as
Michelangelo's.
it ages.
Like if you go down and look at the Reformed church roof, you'll see the patina on that.
Yeah.
No, you mentioned that at the last meeting because I was trying
I think
to,
the dome on this building is copper.
that's
if I'm not
painted
mistaken.
green.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I will tell you that that hasn't finished patina.
But you're installing it with the patina already on it.
it's
Right.
pre-patinaed, which means the green will be initialized by an acid wash, and then as the rain and the salt hits it over time, it'll get greener and greener and greener.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. But it's not getting installed shiny copper that then will naturally patina
No, it's
over time.
pre-patinaed.
Okay, and you're telling us that this pre-patina will change colors?
It's constantly changing for the rest of the life
But
of the
it
copper.
stays.
That's what copper
Yeah, it
does.
stays.
I understand that's what copper does, but I've never seen a sample. With the sample you brought in, if you flipped it over, it was regular copper.
Yes.
Okay. The surface it was on, I was trying to clarify as to how that surface treatment was that came to that treatment. Is it
It's a chemical wash that's put on the copper,
Okay.
and that engages the copper, and it begins the oxidation process chemically, and then as time goes by, it deepens, gets greener and greener as the acid rain
So if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is you chemically start the process.
You chemically start the
And
process.
kind of speed it up a little bit in the beginning and let them take a
It
snap.
saves about 7 years in the process. It's a lengthy process, copper.
Because when you had mentioned at the last meeting about the roof on the Reformed Church, and I tried to think of where there were any other copper roofs in the general area that I could look at, that copper roof has turned brown. It's a
Well,
real,
that's the process. That was a new roof, I think, just a few years
Yeah,
ago.
it was a lot longer.
It'll take 9 years to turn green, I'm sure.
okay, so in terms of copper roofs, I didn't see any copper roofs in any of those examples that you showed.
And this
pictures.
is not a roof either.
Well, she's identifying this roof, that's what he calls it.
It's a cornice more than a roof.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
have
it's
to
most of the building.
make it ideal for our roof, where it will develop a patina over time, so,
That's not a roof.
okay, well,
It's a cornice.
this,
It's the same as the cornices that are on these buildings, that are in all different materials. They're stone, they're brick, they're wood, they're copper, they're metal. This one around the doorway is, in fact, pressed.
but they're painted. But
Some are painted.
I couldn't find a single roof in the historic overzone that was copper. Now, I'm not saying,
But
The church
architectural
roof is
detail,
copper.
you will.
The church roof is copper.
yes, but it's not a green copper. It's
It will be. You have to.
No, it's not a shiny,
It won't, it
okay,
takes.
all right, well, maybe it will.
Copper
Okay.
takes a
It will
lifetime to
change over
color.
time.
It takes 7 to 9 years for it to oxidize.
Okay, all right.
It
Well,
looked
that'll be
really
interesting to
pretty
watch.
when I first put it on as copper, and then it got to the point where it started getting this funny green shape.
Excuse me, so you really just bypassed an entire step of the aging process by doing the acid
That's what I
wash.
said, when I said to him, you sped up the aging process.
Exactly.
by
You look
10
how beautiful it looks when you look at it, it's a good picture. May I please?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, no,
the colors go so well
Yeah,
together.
it's modeled more than I had expected in
Yeah.
terms of green, the preliminary step to get it go.
It takes a good 15 or 20 years for it to turn solid, smooth green, what it looks like green velvet. That's a very lengthy process.
And certainly this will bring in kind of, old, almost old European.
Yes.
Okay, another question I had for you in terms of what you had written up was about the entry door. And you said the door complements town's architectural vernacular, and I think you meant the village.
The village.
Okay. But I looked at all the doors that were in the pictures you had and other doors, and I didn't see a single door any place in the village where there's 3 glass panels, like you have shown here. We got one on the top, one in the middle, or I'm reading that, I think, right, because it gets reflection of the granite in those. It's nothing like the door that was there, it's nothing like any door that I could
So
say.
it complements the rest of the architectural
So
design.
there's doors that have 6/6 lights in them, there are doors that
Yeah.
have 3/3 lights in them, there are doors that have 2/2. There are doors that are all different designs.
Right, but there's,
We have,
Look at the
we have,
pizza door.
it's a glass door, basically, with a double style. That's all that is.
Pardon me, maybe I'm wrong on this, but part of me thinks that I've seen a book of doors in Troy, New York. None of them are the same, but they're all the same in a sense. And that's part of the beauty of that whole setup is that.
Makes it interesting.
Yeah, and they complement each other
Yes.
so much.
Well, the Masonic Temple has a double pane,
right, but it goes top to bottom.
and they're vertical, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that in terms of looking at doors,
Yeah,
there's no other door that I saw in the,
there are
That-
doors,
the door is very transparent, I'm not questioning
doors
the
of all
fact.
different shapes and sizes,
But-
and windows, segments to them,
I think this door goes with the building.
Yes.
I don't think that you're gonna find anything on that design that mimics something else that you're gonna see in the village. I do have a question about this, the window at the top, where it's been described as a sky, I wasn't at the
It's a
last
skylight.
meeting, so I'm not
It's a-
sure if you've already explained this, but it's a skylight that illuminates,
There's a light scoop behind this that's 3 feet, that goes 3 feet back. So as you enter, there's a volume of space that goes up into that little bump that's at the top. There's a skylight on the top of it that's hidden inside the copper. And there's this light that you see coming in from the east face of it. When you look up, of course, you can look across through here and see the tower of Tracy Memorial. So the whole idea is that you have a visual connection between the inside and the outside, just trying to capture a little more light because we're already redoing the structure of this, so it's easy to provide a little emphasis to the entry when you come in and have a little vertical ascent.
okay,
It's
so
very
it's,
compressed.
so you have the glass on the front and then also on the
There's a little
top.
skylight.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's hidden back behind the copper.
Just to make sure I understand things. Now, this down through here is a flat seam on
It's a
these,
flat seam copper, yes.
are these standing
Standing
seams?
seam.
Okay, it didn't say standing seam, but we had talked about it. I just wanted to make sure that it
Yeah,
was.
standing seam.
Okay.
We tried to label everything clearly on the back sheet.
And then I guess the other question I would have for you, your providers for the site plan, okay? Assuming this is based on some survey, but it doesn't indicate anything on
This
here.
is the survey.
Well, if it was a survey, it would have
We'll
a license stamp on it.
It's got a license stamp on it, of course.
Clark Engineering. We did it
It's
in-
not on this.
We're just saying
We're
this
not
is the power.
required to submit this. We took this from the surveyor, and we will submit the survey as part of our contract document set with the stamp of the surveyor on it.
Well, I guess,
We typically review those here, so I know that you're accustomed to doing this elsewhere, but those are documents that we normally would review in this process, so that's why he's that's what,
She has it in the...
okay, great. That's why he's asking you for those documents, because we're
Look,
accustomed to seeing
because
them.
of your, you
Yeah.
just need to know.
Right.
If I would have known, I have 3 copies in my studio.
Yeah.
and I guess the reason I asked the question is because initially, there was no work on the site. The work was on the building. The paving aspect is now site work.
I understand.
And with site work, there are other issues that we have to bring in.
Fully
At the last
understand.
meeting, you weren't sure what the limits were, what it was going to be.
Right.
Now we know better.
I didn't want to do that off the top of my head. I had the survey and I had to review it specifically.
Okay, so you do have you have a survey,
Yeah,
okay,
they're gonna bring it in.
yeah.
Hopefully it's in the document.
If not, I have it, I can drop it with Aaron.
And I guess, and this probably is not gonna go over well with many people.
Don't say it.
But the application that we're looking at, which is referred to as 2024-099, I don't know if the rest of you brought that application with you, but that application says it's only for demolition. It says there's nothing in this.
I've been through this with Erin, so I think she needs to determine this, because she had already told me that all of the interior work and demolition was already approved. and
No,
it's not part of the application.
demolition has not been approved, and when you look at,
Well, can we have her here, because I think
where is she?
I have the permit for approval of that, that's standing on the wall.
I have a document from Erin
Thank you so much.
telling me that the demolition was approved.
No.
We never make any approval for the demolition because, I mean,
I'm told, she's the building inspector, I have conferred with her.
Can I say one thing? I had a cease and desist.
Yes,
Because
right.
we didn't,
Right.
and so then we did everything properly, and came in and got the right approval, whatever that approval's called.
well, this, I mean, okay, let me just, the benefit of the rest of the board members.
Where's
Okay,
Aaron?
I have the application here, which says 2024-099. That's what we're reviewing tonight. That application says, under nature of proposed work, demolition. That's the only thing that's checked. Okay? When you go to the page,
I paid for two,
well,
but don't ask me what they were.
okay, when I go to the page in the back that was put in here, I'm assuming by Aaron, it says, per 110-150, minor site plan application for historic review, only for removing entire facade of PCR Realtor only and replacing it per photo attached. Well, the photo attached with this is
Here
this.
she is.
There you are.
Can I ask you, when I asked you about this, you told me, and I think you wrote back to me, that the demolition was fully approved, and the work that was, the remedial work that was done in there was already, had already been approved by your office?
Yes,
To the point I'm bringing
We
up,
did a cease and desist, and then I filed.
Yes,
Yes, it
yes,
was,
correct,
so-
yes, so we did a stop work order, you submitted everything to the planning board. First meeting, the planning board voted to let you continue to do the framing and do everything basically except for the facade.
Right.
but what the application that's before us tonight is application 024-9999. That application says only demolition. There's nothing in this application that says anything else.
I don't know what application you have.
I have the one right here that's been signed, that's been included, which is the only one we
What's
signed.
the date on that
Oh,
application?
Aaron, I signed two, I just don't remember the
Is
call.
this the application that we should be looking at?
No, because that's the one.
This is renovation,
Yeah, it says
office.
Says
I don't see
It's
renovation.
not checked, the only thing that's checked is demolition. That's-
No, it's
It's
renovation.
renovation.
Renovation
It
is
says
checked.
renovation, office.
And what's this one?
Oh,
No,
Renovation,
what's the date? Oh, this is also
Yeah.
from,
renovation, there's no demolition checked.
Yeah, it says renovation.
Yeah.
Okay, that looks like demolition to me, but I will go along with
It says
it.
renovation.
Okay. I will go
There's no
along.
B in demolition.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like an apology to me.
No, it is an apology, I apologize.
That's why I said this is the application, right? 'Cause it
Right,
says
yeah, that's it,
renovation.
it's an application for renovation. There we-
okay, we're done with that.
Yeah,
Oh, we'll go on,
all right.
Please.
moving right along.
Here's the survey.
And that's got all the right things for a survey.
Clark.
Has the pavement area been added to the application?
She submitted that as a full site plan, it's for historic review.
Okay.
It wasn't written on there, that it's for renovation of facade under historic review. So the site plan that's presented is what you're approving.
But
Okay,
I
but-
believe, if I can, that is put on there because we requested it.
Yeah.
So that's an upgrade on the,
Okay.
we requested that.
Okay.
I mean, normally,
That's why that's on
the
there.
paving probably wouldn't even, if she was just doing that, wouldn't come before you anyway.
Right.
So just, but because
But
they're doing the whole structure.
because we requested it, they put it on there.
Correct.
Okay.
So if they use grant
Let
for
me,
opinion,
let's
wouldn't come
have somebody else who
forward?
hasn't had something to say yet. Well,
No, it's, if anything, I wouldn't even get a building permit for it. Because that would go to the DPW.
Whether it's block or pavement, it wouldn't get a permit.
But just so you know, I would have.
I don't believe so, I think.
It's always best to ask.
DPW, yeah, I mean,
Joins the road.
yeah.
what I'm getting at is, that is, you put on here, I believe, because we asked you to do it, so you put it on for us.
Yes, we would have done it, we do it routinely, we certainly would have put it in our
It's
contract
one of those things
documents.
that you were being nice putting on, that they didn't really have to, but we requested it, so they did it.
Okay, so we are not really reviewing that detail.
Yeah, but just because the whole thing
It's
is.
just, we asked to do it so we could get a better visual of what the whole thing is going to look like.
Can I make a request?
Will,
Can we just try to take turns and keep the conversation?
one at a time,
Yes.
Thank you.
which is why I'm trying to, Will,
Can I suggest we, as we were advised by our lawyer, go through item by item, both the site plan checklist and the review criteria?
we will be going down through that. And
And,
this, okay, this is just a quick overview, asking if they have any questions.
I have one more
So
other
we can go
question.
down. Hopefully that will rule us.
I just wanted to, can I ask that question?
Sure.
Okay. I have a question about this, the shield or this detail that's on the right-hand side. And I just don't see any in the presentation that you put together outlining the history of the village. I'm not really seeing anything that relates back to that detail. So I'm wondering if you could explain it to me.
Yeah, the idea of geometrical ornament is long-standing, and in history of architecture goes back into the 1st century and all the way forward. If you drive into Hudson, you go to Olana, which was, by the way, not a very well-liked building at the time it was done, because Victorian Gothic was not very well-liked during the Beaux-Arts architecture. It's ridden with geometric ornament that is sometimes 3D, sometimes 2D, it's in patterns, it's in textures. It was developed, all of those ornaments are developed as helping to reduce the scale of the building, so that you're not set with the overarching sides of the building, but that there's other pieces of the building that mitigate the scale, that make it approachable, make it human scale, that change the size as we perceive buildings, as we take them in. If you don't have those intervals, if you don't have smaller and larger pieces of the building that move, the scale is static. It either becomes fixed and dried and kind of not so interesting, or it can become extremely, if you go to a line, it's extremely agitated on the surface and looks vibrant, it can almost pulse with it, and it's our attempt to create a contemporary version of that. This will have some lighting in it, soft lighting for the evening. It's also, as we mentioned, there's a bathroom behind us, which was the location of the plumbing, so we were left with having to do something with it, and rather than leave it blank, we try to have it have an ornamental effect in the town. It does show up as we've tried to illustrate in the town photographs.
I think it
some of
is-
the pieces that are in the town architecture, whether they're cornices or doorway entrances or pattern texture work in stone, or geometric ornamentations, that's what they are.
If I might, my understanding, for example, in some of the buildings you'll notice in town, there is what looks like there should be a window there, but it's actually a concrete part that they put in there. And isn't that part of what you're saying, is that that's there so that it kind of breaks up the wall, it makes it look,
Yes,
looks like it should look.
but it gives it a figure and it makes it a little more decorative.
I think it takes the flatness away from it, you know,
And it
it
takes the
just,
flatness.
it's very interesting.
It's just slight, it's only 3 inches out.
So
from the
it's gonna be
surface.
illuminated?
It-
I
in the
I
grooves.
personally am just not really understanding it. I think the mahogany woodwork that you have is, a lovely feature. And I'm just not really understanding why you would want to cover it up. I get that can't be a window because there's a bathroom there, but,
It's
I
a
don't know,
way
it just doesn't really make a lot of sense
integrating
to
the
me.
two materials, so they're not caught in a hard line between the two. So the The vertical piece, which has different seams to it, drops down into the doorway. This one drops down from the top down into the lower wall, so that there's a play in the line. Otherwise, you'd have the building literally cleaved by a line where the cornice met the wall of the building, which makes it a little less interesting. This gives it a little more dynamic movement to it, so it feels a little more designed and a little more approachable.
And with a little soft light behind it.
In the
I think
grooves,
it's going to
there'll be a
lovely.
recessed line, you won't see the bulbs.
It does.
Just allow for it.
For clarity's sake, the bathroom is back there.
Yeah,
Is that gonna vent out?
no, it goes to the roof.
Okay, so it's strictly.
It's strictly ornamental,
It's-
yes.
Okay.
You're not allowed to bring bathrooms to the street.
Well, you can vent,
Not supposed to.
you have to vent the bathroom outside.
Yes,
Okay.
usually they go up to the roof.
We have to do requirement since the building, so required site plan, so the pavers would not require a building permit.
Okay, thank you.
The pavers do not require a building permit.
So, if I may, any other questions from the board before we continue on? If I'm reading the directions that we're getting from Ken correctly, one of the first things we have to do is look at the secret.
No, I
And
don't.
you can say that,
We don't have.
no, listen,
We don't
we have to look at the secret and say that we don't need it. And so therefore we have to have a motion saying we don't need that.
Oh, okay.
There's a list of things, and secret is one of the things that's on the list. If we don't, and what they're saying, we don't need some of these things. But so we can say that we did look at it and say we don't need it, we have to have a motion saying so.
I'll make a motion that we are required to look at the secret of this application.
Second.
Second, any discussion on that motion?
Can we just modify it and say that it's a type 2 action on the seeker? So that it's clarified as to what type of
Okay,
action it is?
Accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, yeah.
What is that?
Okay,
State Environmental Quality Review Act.
you're not gonna pull. Okay, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I said again, we'll poll each person.
Aye.
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 Okay. The application before the planning board only for historic review does not have to go to, refer to the Cumberland County Planning Board.
We
That,
don't need a motion for that.
you don't need a motion, but we want that listed in minutes if we have to. Okay, so we have a list of things that we've got to go down over and make sure that it's taken care of. Draw,
So, just to clarify,
yes,
correct me if I'm wrong, this first list is things that are required to be in the application, is that right?
either that are required to be in the application or we state that we don't think we need it.
Yes. So,
I use it like this. So the title of drawing, including name and address of the applicant and person responsible for preparation of the such drawing.
did we see that?
I believe that's right there, right? North arrow, graphic scale, and date.
That is not on the site plan we have.
That would be on this one.
I was survey but not the site plan.
Okay, so if you leave that,
I will.
okay.
Boundaries of the property plotted to scale. Again, that's on the survey.
Okay, I'm sorry, can I ask one more question about the site plan? On the site plan you gave us, I didn't understand what something was, and I just, for clarification. What are these things?
Cars. They're completely out of proportion.
I was gonna say that, and I guess that goes back to the aspect of the
They're
question about
smaller than-
scale.
They had kids come up with their cars.
I thought they were planters. the
They're
first
smaller
time I saw
than Cooper Minis.
They had kids come up with their.
Yeah, kids' cars.
it. Okay, so they're supposed to be cars.
Big cars.
Okay.
Existing water courses.
I don't think that's relevant, right?
We agree that we don't need it?
Where are we on the site plan review? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Okay.
Site plan checklist.
the checklist.
Let me check this. Grading and drainage plan showing existing and proposed contours.
No changes.
No changes. Location, design, type of construction, proposed use, and exterior dimensions of all structure.
I think this is about the facade, and I think they did an excellent job
Yeah, that's
detailing
Yes.
exactly what's gonna happen and what elements are.
description of efforts made to integrate the new structure with the village's architecture and character. Village of Chatham, New York, amendment of zone code, October 25, 2019, page 121. Basically, I think it's what he's saying, right, this whole thing right here. That he's,
No, I was just trying to read what you're reading.
Yeah, what are you reading from?
Yeah, you're reading
I recommend reading from
What section?
I'm reading,
yeah, I think you might be reading an outdated list.
I was going by what I
We're on
wrote.
G,
1G,
It's 11015C.
110,
11015E5.
What page?
110, 28. I had this confused, so I would have to look this up. Okay.
We're going through
No,
all,
aren't we on,
and Ken just suggested a few. Going through all.
yeah, you're on the wrong,
Now,
you're on
Oh, yeah, sorry.
this.
This one right here.
This one.
so I believe we're up to I.
We're on G.
G, description of efforts made to integrate the new structure with the village's architecture and character. That's what I just
I
did.
think this is very well included in the application.
Location, design, and type of construction of all parking and truck loading areas, showing access and egress.
No changes.
No changes. Type and volume of traffic expected to be generated.
Same.
Same.
Yeah, it's also not relevant to the historic.
Provision for pedestrian access. Same. Location of waste collection, containers, dumpsters, and proposed screening.
Same. I actually, I just want to get myself recorded. But I'm actually thinking of putting them in the back so it looks prettier, because I don't like to see them in the front.
As long as they're going to be picked up and not...
Oh, yeah, always.
Is straight down on Wednesday?
Location of outdoor storage, if any.
None.
No.
Location, design, and construction materials of all existing or proposed site improvements, including drains, culverts, retaining walls, and fences.
None of
None of that.
Description of the method of sewer disposal and location.
It's not relevant.
Not relevant. Design and construction materials of such facilities, not relevant. Description of method of securing public water and location. Design and construction
Not
materials.
relevant.
Not relevant, because
No change?
it's no change.
that. No change?
Location of fire and other emergency zones, including location of fire, not relevant, and the fire hydrants right across the street. Location, design, and construction of materials of all emergency distribution facilities, including electrical, gas, and solar energy.
No change.
No change. Location, size, design, and type of construction of all proposed signs.
No change.
No change.
Basically,
It's the same signs we had there.
it's included.
Your sign is on the window.
It's
You're not doing a separate sign.
No.
Not right now.
If you decide that you want to put another type of sign
I'll
up,
come back to see you.
then you come back. Location and proposed development of all buffer areas, including existing vegetation of color.
What's in there?
I'm sorry?
It's not relevant.
Not relevant. Location and design of outdoor lighting facilities.
Well, you indicated.
Just a
Yeah,
couple.
you have indicated, because you said it was
Yeah,
that.
just a strip of LED lighting under the code.
Identification of location and amount of building area proposed for retail sales or similar commercial activity. Included.
It's included.
General landscaping plan and planting schedule. No change.
No, no.
And estimated project construction schedule.
6 to 9.
You're the one.
6 to 9 months.
As soon as you can get it done.
As soon as we can get it closed.
Record of application for an approved status of all necessary permits from state and county officials. Determined not needed.
We'll submit to Aaron our working drawings.
Identification of any state or county permits required for the project's execution.
Just to go.
Short form or the long form of the secret, okay, we've already talked about that one, not needed.
Can we go back a couple,
Okay,
like what was the response for X?
X,
Not needed.
It's not relevant.
not relevant because
Do,
We're only supposed to be
very thick there.
We're waiving anything that's not relevant, is what we need to do,
You have to read each line item.
right?
So once we get through this, we'll make the motion to waive all this. Stormwater pollution prevention plan, no change in stormwater, so that would not be necessary. Other elements integrated to the proposed development as considered necessary by the planning board. Everyone agree on what we've said?
Dan, what letter are you on?
I am now on BB.
I got there.
So I believe that what we need is a motion to waive the ones that we said were
Not relevant.
not relevant.
I'll make a motion that we waive the site plan, what are these called, considerations? That we just listed are either not applicable or have no change from previous. And then, I don't know if you can connect the motion to like this document, I just wrote them all down.
Yeah.
We waive the following from the site plan checklist.
Yes, from the site plan. Well, we have a second.
Can you just quickly read the
I'll
letters?
second.
So we have a motion and a second. Now we can
Hold
discuss.
on, he's got
In
it.
the motion, I'm gonna read the letters that we're waiving.
Okay.
D, E, H, I, J, K, L, N, N, O, P, Q, R, S, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, double A, and double B.
Thank you. He just listed the,
Yeah.
Oh, second, I'll second.
okay. Any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, we'll go down the list again.
Aye.
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 Aye, passes unanimously. Okay.
So we, in my understanding, we now need to do the exact same thing, but for the review criteria.
Yeah,
Yes.
Which is section
Okay.
110-15G1.
which is right here, start in there.
Here we go. Review criteria. Consider consistency with the comprehensive plan. Page 11028.
So, I have a clarifying question.
Okay.
Is this, now we're actually saying we reviewed these things, right? We're not just saying that they're included in the application. We're saying we have reviewed them and this is what we think.
Yes.
Okay. So then we're waiting
Shall
on.
review the site plan to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the village and its citizens. The review shall include as appropriate, but is not limited to, application criteria set forth in this chapter, as well as the following general considerations.
So-
That's what we're doing.
So we need to go through this and pick the ones we're gonna waive. And the ones-
Yeah, we're waiving things that are not relevant
And
to
then
the
the ones
storage.
we don't waive, we need to write down facts
Yeah.
about why they have been considered.
Or that they have been considered,
And here
and
are
what
the
the
facts.
not the facts of them.
So I'm gonna be recording
Okay.
those two things.
Consistency with the comprehensive plan.
Needs to be reviewed.
We're not waiving it.
Yeah, not
Now
reviewed.
we-
And
Well,
what are
so we'll
facts
come-
about that, that we can write down?
So what's our review?
Well, does the comprehensive plan include architectural reviews? I mean, in terms of the comprehensive plan, it's a building that was there already, so we're not adding, nothing's being added.
Sounds like we.
I wish Steve hadn't left. Steve,
So what we're saying is that we've reviewed it, it doesn't change the building's there, so that doesn't change as far as the
It's
comprehensive.
not a change in zoning.
It's not a change in
It's
zoning.
not a change in use.
The only
So you
change
end up in relation to the comprehensive plan. It's compatible from that point of view.
So it sounds like we could actually waive that part.
well, no, we can note that those comments that we just made. that it-
Sorry,
it's-
could you say that again, Francis?
I said it's not a change in use,
Not a change in zoning.
not a change in zoning. So it's compatible with the comprehensive plan from those points that I just made, we just made.
mhm.
Great.
Location, arrangement, size, design, and generally site compatibility of buildings, writings, and signs. Signs and lights should be compatible and in scale with buildings, elements, and will not dominate the overall visual impact and project of the project and neighborhood.
Did you say signs and lights?
Signs and lights.
The signs and lights are both in keeping with the surrounding building.
Well, it basically, I think what they're talking about in this particular section has to do with a new structure.
Yeah.
In other words, a new structure in terms of its location on the property, its arrangement in relation to the property, the size of the building, the design and general site compatibility with that site that it's being located on, and lighting and signs that may be associated with that new structure.
So it sounds like we could just say.
We don't have it.
I would also add that they have slightly changed the front facade to match the surrounding buildings.
Well, the lighting's gonna be softer, right?
And
Because we had to.
in other words, I want to acknowledge the fact that you're trying to make it look like it belongs.
Very much right.
I think you agree with that, but that's okay.
So what are we saying here? It's not a new building,
It's not a new building,
so it's,
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 It's not a new building, so the aspects of location, arrangement, size, design, and general site compatibility
okay.
is not applicable.
So,
the only change is that the size of the front has been,
They're talking about the size of the building, not the
Well, the
elevation.
sign and the lights
It doesn't
will
say
be
that, it says
compatible in
size.
scale with the building elements and will not dominate the overall visual impact of the.
and so it's being, the size of the front of the building is being adjusted to match surrounding buildings.
Yes.
Got it?
so I have, this isn't a new building, so aspects of site compatibility is not applicable.
Right, that's pretty much.
And the size of the front of the building has been adjusted to match surrounding buildings.
Okay, I don't agree with that. It doesn't match the surrounding buildings, but.
And do we want to say something about lights?
Do we consider the lights, the signs, the lights to be compatible with the scale of the surrounding elements due to the,
With the building elements, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So-
So lights being added are compatible with building elements.
this location, arrangement, appearance, and sufficiency of all
you must see.
Adequacy and arrangement of,
vehicle traffic and access
Traffic access.
circulation, including intersections
Well,
with
this is not
pavers,
relevant.
totally irrelevant.
Again, it's like the one above it, it's not really applicable because they're talking about new construction with site plan that goes with a whole new structure, with lighting, grading.
yeah, so we just need to identify that it's not relevant and just move on, so that one's not relevant.
Should we have done that with B also?
Yes, that's what I would have said.
No, that's
Well,
what
I
we,
don't know,
that's what we
B
put
is
statements in there.
referring to signs and lights, which there are lights on that building, so,
But changing the, see, to me, I don't think that's what they're talking about
okay.
in relation to that particular aspect of this review, in terms of whether the lights that are in the building or the,
We're talking about like big streetlights.
yeah, I think they're talking about, again, a parking lot, the size of the lots. If you had
Site lighting,
a real site aspect, this,
where you put airport runway lights.
right, this is really not reflective of, if they put a whole brand new building in,
Okay.
how does that building fit on the site with compatibility to other locations? This here is not really applicable to what is
So-
being done across the street.
So does the board want our written comments for B to be, this isn't a relevant item, or to be what we have written?
I'd say as an existing structure on an existing site, the items in B are not applicable.
The rest of the
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just keep it moving.
Well, yeah.
Location,
So
arrangement.
they're talking about scale, yeah.
D, location, arrangement, appearance, and sufficiency of off-street parking and loading.
Not relevant.
Not relevant. E, adequacy and arrangements of pedestrian traffic access and circulation, walkways, structures, controls, intersections with vehicle traffic, and that's not relevant. F, adequacy of stormwater and drainage facilities, no change.
Where are your downspouts anyway? Where's your?
The roof is pitched in
It's
the
pitched
back.
back.
It goes back into the building in the back.
Adequacy of water supply and sewer disposal facilities. No change.
No change.
Adequacy, type, and arrangement of trees, shrubs, and other landscaping considering a visual and/or noise buffer between the applicant and adjoining buildings, including the maximum retention of existing vegetation. Not applicable. Adequacy of fire lanes and other emergency zones and the provision of fire hydrants. No change.
No change.
I say no change because you've got a fire hydrant right across the street from it. Special attention to the adequacy and improvement of structures, roadways, and landscaping in the areas where suspending of ponding, flooding, or other erosions not applicable. Okay.
Yes.
Adequacy of open space areas, if any, for its intended use. Not applicable. I, projection of adjustment of neighboring properties against noise, glare, insufficient,
Unsightliness, yeah.
odors, smoke, dust, or other objectionable features.
So this is, I think this is applicable, at least a little bit.
Which one are you on?
L.
L.
Projection
What
of,
are you reading?
projection of,
Protection.
protection of adjacent or neighboring properties against noise, glare, unsightliness, odors, smoke, dust, or other objectionable features.
So the one thing is like, we should consider, this is a neighboring property with windows that look over the roof of this building. Are they gonna have an unsightly view?
No, because next door, what did I say? Can I answer? Okay,
Yeah.
next door, the tattoo studio?
No, not on that side.
The other side.
Apartment building?
But they have a, what do you call that, skylight?
It's just a roof, you don't see anything.
Yeah, I think from
Just see the roof.
the residential dwelling,
Yeah, the
okay,
apartment.
in terms of that apartment building, from what I can gather, there's no changes being made to the structure, other than you're gonna rebuild
Building
a
a new
roof.
roof.
A new
It will
roof.
be higher.
No, the
No,
facade.
No, just the front
Just
facade,
the
front
facade.
facade.
Just the piece that wraps over the front.
So it won't really have any effect on the neighbors.
Right, had no effect.
That's just the vertical element.
Yeah,
But
there's windows on this white building
Right.
here,
Right,
and it's a minor thing, but I wanted to bring it up. Technically, their view is changed of like the street.
because the facade was lower before. I mean, the eaves was lower before.
I don't think
And it's
that it's a
higher
deal
now.
breaker, but.
But-
I don't think it's,
I mean, it's 18 inches.
yeah, it's just 18 inches, it's not a, so if you want to list that we looked at it and said that it shouldn't affect overall.
No, right, like, change in view from neighbors is negligible.
Adequacy of setbacks.
One other question about that.
Yes.
One is that, I think I know the answer, but there's no green lighting that like shines into other properties or.
No, there's no change in lighting. Adequacy of setbacks in regard to achieving maximum compatibility and protection to adjacent properties in residential district.
Not relevant.
Not relevant. Compatibility of structures with village architecture and character along with existing and planned use of adjacent properties.
So I think this is where we need to write down a bunch of things about
This is where we've had a major
that
discussion.
Mr. Rinaldi has written, or reference them in the application at least.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the end of this checklist.
But I think we can do that. At least we can have a motion to waive the ones that we don't find applicable. Does that sound
Are you
right?
making that motion? And you want to rattle them off?
I can make that motion. So I made a motion to waive the review criteria, the following review criteria, because they are not applicable.
General criteria.
General.
Is it what they're called?
Mhm.
General criteria. B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, M. That's it.
Those M is in Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're now on the last one.
When I went in,
Yeah, and
in terms of planned uses, we don't know. You have plans, but we don't know if they'll come to fruition.
Unless I die. Could happen.
I mean, I guess the only thing I would, again, I go back to what I believe this is related to is whole new buildings, whole new sites, not the aspect of an existing structure that's having renovation or modifications made to it. I think, for instance, if we had a parcel of land in which someone was building a whole brand new building on it, these elements become much more in keeping with what they're being looked for a site plan. The site plan we have in front of us is basically nothing more than the existing conditions as they exist. Okay, there's nothing else that's
There's no change.
on here that has any changes at all. So in terms of compatibility of structures, there are no new structures, and that's what they're referring to, there's new structures, not existing structures. Compatibility of structures with the village's architecture and character. If that whole complex of 3 buildings was ripped down and someone was going to build a new building, then this compatibility would become the issue. That's not what we have here tonight.
Yes.
Why? I don't understand that. I mean, I understand.
We have to do it, there's no question about that. But this, and go through it, but this particular segment that's in here
It's really only about.
is really basically new elements on a new piece of property, not on a renovation to a building, okay? Think of the other buildings that, over periods of time, they had things, a new staircase put on a building, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about a whole brand new development.
Even though the entire facade isn't.
It's just a facade. If the whole building was ripped down to the ground, as has been said, there are 3 separate buildings, then maybe.
If, for example, they were going to replace the 3 of those buildings with a single building set back from the street, a lot of that would apply dramatically.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just that what my question is that the facade is completely new.
But again,
It's within the same space and everything, but it's.
it is one piece of property, okay? If it was 3 separate pieces of property, which is part of the reason why the survey becomes important, then that might be considered a little bit different, but it's not. It's one piece of property that happens to have these 3 units on it.
the argument that I would think that part of should be made, or for or against, is that when we look at other properties, i.e. buildings on the main street, when, say, they wanted to change a doorway, does that fit within the architecture of that particular setup? And I think that's what we're talking about for the front of this. Does it fit? Does it
I think we tried to demonstrate that the variability of the designs of the buildings in the town span across multiple styles, multiple generations, multiple construction types, multiple expressions that are very different, not coherent. There are some towns where everything is Georgian architecture and that's the mix. And this is not that town, which is what makes it have the charm that it has. It's got many different styles.
I mean,
You're looking for a general.
And I think that's the argument that we have to put into
Yes.
this, saying that that's the reason why we think this fits.
No, where that will come is when you make the final vote. This is basically in terms of the general aspects of it. And
Can I just say about that, Francis?
Yeah.
In this letter from Ken, who I think understands this, item D, 3D, I guess, the board must evaluate the application in light of the following elements of the site plan review general criteria, which is what we're talking about. And then later he says, whatever the board's decision, it is important that the board make specific findings in relation to the code standards and provisions noted above that support the decision. The planning board shall set forth its findings in writing. So he's talking about taking what's within this list that you're talking about and making specific statements of fact that we've learned from the architect and like referencing them to what's required that we review.
Okay, but I think the architect and I are in agreement that this statement is not related to the aspect of doing a renovation to a building. It's related to the aspect of a whole new structure on a currently undeveloped or partially developed piece of property.
Or even,
I
when
think,
you attempt to demolish something
if
and
I can make a please, sir. I totally disagree, and I think the lawyer totally disagrees. What you're saying is that we have to come up with these criteria, and this is part of what we're doing, is to look at that to see if it fits. Now, our argument is not that we don't have to do it, we have to, and I think the argument we have to have is that it does fit, for the reasons that you're saying, for the exact reasons, that this village, the charm of it is that it has such other different types of aspects.
We are still in the site plan review general criteria. We're not even in the historic section. So I agree with what Francis has said. We need to move past this section. Because what you're saying is relevant to the historic review section, not the general criteria.
Part of me is saying is that the reason we have to put this in here, so when we get to the historic review, we can say, yes, that's the reason why it works.
But you can make a statement, I think you can make a statement saying it is compatible for all the reasons that Francis just made,
Right.
and that it will be explained further in the historic review.
Yeah, then when we get to the historic review, we've got this, we can go back and say, look, that's what we found.
I didn't say
Adheres
it's
to
compatible.
the site plan, it adheres to the, I'm sorry?
I'm not saying it's compatible in terms of, I'm saying that what is being done, in my opinion, based on how I interpret this, it's not, what's being done to the building is not related to what the section is that we're looking at. What's
Yeah, I
related to the
understand.
section is what Jennifer said, it's the historic review. So I'm not really saying it's what you said.
Well, it sounds like we could move to the historic review.
Yeah, so we can move on. Is everybody set, ready to go to the historic review?
What page are we on?
That is 11056.
That's what I'm saying is why it's going to be in there.
So, what is your decision about this?
Is that section N?
So in B, it says, the board must evaluate the application in light of the following elements of the site plan review guideline criteria. Such section states that the planning board review shall include the following considerations. III is compatibility of structure with village architecture and character along with the existing and planned use of adjacent properties.
That's what,
All three of these, right?
Yeah, those are the ones that we did not waive. We did not waive A, B, or N.
right.
So we are considering those.
Or L?
Yeah. And I'm not clear yet on what we said about N, besides not waiving it. Are we saying that,
Well, I think what Jennifer and I are saying is that we do not feel that this is really related to the historic aspect of what we're really here to review.
so we could waive it?
So we could waive this as stated, and then go to the section with the historic review.
So the argument now is where do we actually look at that? Not that we don't look at it, but where do we look at it?
We look at it in terms of our historic
And so
review.
part of what some of us are saying is that according to that listing, it says we're supposed to take a look at, when we're looking at it.
I think what we're getting confused about is the compatibility of the physical structure, that building, which is not changing, the structure is not changing, versus the compatibility, the visual compatibility, which is part of the historical review. So in the site plan review general criteria, it is just referring to the structure of the
The
building.
fact that it's there,
It's,
not what it
the
is.
building is there, it's a one-story building, it's not moving, it's not changing, it's not growing in size. The visual compatibility is the piece that we cover in the historic review.
It doesn't. It
So-
does say design, location, arrangement, size, design, and general site compatibility of buildings.
Yeah, so these are all the sections that we did not waive. We did not waive section A,
Okay.
section B, you added in L, and then N.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm understanding
And
it.
if we don't waive it, we need to write something down to say in writing that we've considered,
We're considering
or like what our decision, or what our
that
facts were
the
based on.
one-story structure as it exists is compatible with the village. I mean, it's sitting there, it's been in the village. It hasn't changed. It's gotta be compatible.
So I'm gonna write that.
I understand what you just to go through.
There's like 5 or 6 more steps. So are we set on that?
So I have, the one-story structure as it exists isn't changing besides its facade, so it remains compatible with the village's architectural character and planned uses of adjacent properties. Visual changes in the building are addressed in the historic review section.
That sounds reasonable.
So now we're ready for the historical review, which I believe is Article 13, and we will be going with 10-50. Any alteration of existing property shall be appropriate to their historical character as well as to the surrounding district. All construction shall be appropriate in existing appearance in the district in which it is located. New construction shall be compatible with the neighboring historic buildings and with the historic district. To determine appropriateness, the board shall consider the following factors. 1, the general design, character, and stability of the property to the suitability to the property of the proposed alteration of the new construction. Do we want to go each one of these individually?
Just read through them and.
Okay. 2, the scale of the proposed alteration or new construction in relation to the property, surrounding properties, and the neighborhood. 3, texture, materials, and color, and their relation to similar features of other properties in the neighborhood. 4, visual compatibility with surrounding properties, including properties of the property's front facade, proportions, excuse me, of the property's front facade, proportion, arrangement of the windows and other openings within the facade, roof's shape and rhythm of the spacing of the properties in streets, including setbacks. And 5, importance of the historic, architectural, or other significant features to the significance of the property. The demolition should be prohibited in the case of a structure unless the planning board determines that the retention of the structure consists a hazard to a public safety which cannot be eliminated by other economical means available to the owner, or the planning board determines that the structure is not of particular architectural or historical significance.
So those,
Those are your
So I think we pretty much discussed all of this
Yes.
already, but we need to be write down some like
Now we need,
arguments.
The way it's generally been handled, and I think that's what Ken is saying, is that when you make your vote, you need to either all these or whatever ones of these and indicate why that you feel that this is applicable. This is
Each person individually.
each person individually, because that's the way it has to be done. It can't be just you can't just simply say, oh, I think it looks good. You really have to go through this and take these. Now, you have to take each one, but you take the ones that you particularly agree with and identify why you feel that, or the ones you don't agree with and why you feel that way. But each person then has to take their turn at saying,
so, the one thing we haven't done yet, and then I'm going to, it's like, and just because it's my tradition, is there any input from the general public before we get to the next little section?
So I'm the general public, it's wonderful.
Okay, so I just covered that, so, because now I think we're ready for a motion. So that we can say what, if we're ready to vote on this. Because I think we.
Okay, there's one question. If we want to have a public hearing, do we have to finish all this first to present to the public if we choose to have a public hearing?
I don't think that with the historic aspect, and that's basically what the building is basically the changing the facade of the building, the front of the building, and actually the side, now that I see that photo, which shows that
Right, so
the siding is going on.
It's only a first, so until it meets the clapboard that's next to it. We, we're not.
Oh,
They didn't want to leave a bare building with no siding.
I guess I was a bit confused
Yeah,
then,
there's
because
about-
when I looked at this, it looks like,
There's a clapboard that starts somewhere back from the front. They took the front off about a foot in, and then the clapboard. So we're gonna match those two lines.
so this is gonna go back and tie into the clapboard
It'll be
that's
the
on the
clapboard.
side? Okay.
Right, in. I'll stick that in.
Because
Yes.
when I saw the picture, I thought that whole side was changing.
No.
Okay. So what you were...
So what I'm saying is generally with historic overzone, like paint colors or things like that, we've not required a public hearing. Now, if they were to have ripped the building down and construct a new building, maybe that might have been the case if the site work was being done differently. But I do not believe this is a situation where a public hearing is required. But I mean,
It's not required, but
No.
Ken says that we can, if we feel it would add value.
Let's do this the easy way. Do we want a public hearing?
I don't think it's gonna add any value to this conversation.
Well, I don't think we want one in terms of getting this done. The only question is whether there is anybody who lives around here or works around here or owns other buildings, whether they might have something to say about it.
see, that's one of the problems with the aspect.
Of course, we don't have to take into account what they say in terms of our decision.
Right.
But I think that's one of the problems with the aspect that when we set up our agendas, that there's nothing in the paper because it doesn't require a public hearing. And I believe the only time there's anything put in the local papers is when a public hearing is required. Many years ago, when applications came before the board, the paper listed all of the applications that came before the board and what was being done with that application, even when they were just within the historic overzone.
Isn't the agenda published
Yeah.
publicly?
Yes.
Is it one, sorry?
Isn't the agenda is published publicly before the meeting, so I think that feels the same.
Published where?
Well, it's on the
It's
website.
on the website,
On the
and an
website.
email goes out noticing the meeting.
How many people in the village do you think actually?
Well, that's not our problem.
The argument would also be-
No, but what I do mean is that, one of the times I went to one of the Federation planning board federation things, one of the things that they emphasized so much was making sure that your community knew what was going on. I agree with you, it's on
But
the web.
it's noticed, the village notices planning board meetings and the agenda is published online and it is a routine thing that those things are noticed and published.
If I dare say, because it's my turn, if you want to talk about being published and for the general public to read it, if it's put in the webpage, they're more apt to see it than they put it in the Courier.
Well, the Courier doesn't exist anymore.
That's why. So, now, we don't need a general,
I
okay.
guess so.
So now, moving right along, what do we need?
Well, we have to go through these one by one, right?
Do we want the applicant, in terms of all this
Once we
additional,
have a motion, then we can discuss it.
I'll make a motion, we approve application 2024-09.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Now we can discuss it.
should we ask the applicant to take all of the additional information that was provided, that was not included with the original application, and date it and sign it, so we know that this is part of it, because, again,
Talking about,
all this,
you're talking about the bio?
no, not the,
But
this package here, because
This was submitted to Aaron, it was submitted as an
it's
application.
part of the
It's
application.
part of the application submitted last week.
The only thing that's been added
The only
is,
thing is the site plan.
okay, and again, I guess we'll go back to, but normally when things, and maybe you did it that way, for the benefit of the applicant as well as the benefit of the board, those kinds of things should always have the application number on them and the date, and we did it because paperwork gets lost and shuffled around, and there's second copies and third copies.
Do you want me to sign, put the application number and sign this? I can do that.
I think that would be helpful.
any other discussion?
You had, Francis, you had some questions about dimensions. Did you need that documented as well with his signature?
If he, if,
Isn't it a scale drawing?
no, it's not.
No, he had asked
Is
about.
this the application number, right?
Yes.
024-099?
Wouldn't it be a problem if I asked
That's
this
not
realty be
scheduled.
removed from this application? It's JC and me applying, not PCP Realty. PCP Realty is a tenant and it has no say.
Does this look okay?
That's what it says, JC&B LLC on the application.
I know, but I saw something where it said.
I did too.
The sentence, well, on the planning board meeting agenda.
Oh, right.
So,
Proposed project, blah, 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 removing entire facade on PCP Realtor only. Realtor.
So what you're saying is it should be noted that this is just,
This is 19A, 19B, and 19C.
Yeah, probably just more specifically the unit.
It's not feasible.
I mean, it's, again, like I say, it's for the benefit of the applicant as well as it is for the board, because if down the road, somebody, you know, in the next 30 days or 40 days, questions what the board approved, we need to have everything with our I's dotted and T's crossed in terms of, well, I saw this drawing, and you saw that drawing, and which drawing we have to improve.
You want certified documents in your hand.
Stay as is.
So this
Francis, you just got it. That's the one that's gonna stick with it, sure.
Does the survey map need to be signed and dated, that it's being submitted today as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was submitted actually on the 8th.
Oh, the survey map was already previously submitted.
It was submitted on the 8th.
Anything further? Are we ready to vote on this application?
Think so?
Roll call vote? Vote.
Aye.
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 I do think you need to explain why you're voting aye, because I'm voting
And we still
no.
have to go through that?
And I think that
Okay.
looking at, on here, D, you need to identify, based on that, what you're voting.
Yes, you can't
Yeah,
just
this
say,
would be- this would be,
Okay.
signature two copies.
this is yours, sign the original instead of, and juggling too many things at once here. Okay, so now, just close so I can have a.
Okay, so do you want to start, Francis? then?
Based on the application
Yeah, I'll-
and based on the,
I'll give you the
I could do that again if I wanted.
way to follow, okay? I'm voting no on this application for the proposed work located within the historic overzone. The visual character and the design of the proposed alterations is not in keeping with that of surrounding properties in the neighborhood. Number one, the entry door design style has 3 glass panels, and I could find nothing in the surrounding areas that even mimicked or came close to that. The horizontal battens are not found in the surrounding areas and on none of the buildings nearby. The block pavers, and again, she indicated the block pavers are not part of it, but the block pavers are not found in the historic overzone, or to my knowledge, any place within the village of Chatham. It's a wholly new introduced element that exists nowhere in the Chatham area. You do find them in historic areas,
We could put asphalt.
but predominantly where
That's everywhere.
ships have come in with the stones as ballast, but that's not something that's in Chatham. And the decorative copper panel is a foreign element within the historic district and not in keeping with the surroundings.
I disagree with you, it is in other parts.
You can disagree, that's perfectly fine. So I'm saying the proposed work lacks the visual compatibility with surrounding properties as previously noted, both in materials and overall appearance.
And what did you say, if I may ask, for the Shaker Museum edition? How is that compatible?
I hate to say it, but I think that's out of order at this point.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Well,
Would it be okay if I voted last? Because I don't want to do this yet.
This is what you allowed to exist for years.
Sorry.
You're telling me that is worse than this?
Yeah.
I have no.
Well, but it's never come before the board.
this is not appropriate now.
But
Oh, I don't know what the rules are. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you ready to vote?
Oh, did Francis finish?
I finished.
Please finish.
Okay, so-
Am I ready? No, I'm not ready.
Okay, I'm voting in favor of this based on the presentation made by the architect explaining the architectural features found throughout the village. The scale of this building is not changing significantly, and the texture, material, and colors, the wood cladding, the copper can be found throughout the village. And so in that sense, those materials are compatible. While I don't personally agree, agree with all of the design elements, I don't find them offensive, and I think that that building was lacking historic and architectural details to begin with, so that's where I'm basing my decision to approve it. I don't know if that made any sense, what I just said.
Your turn.
Yeah, I'm voting to approve. I can have some objections?
Yes.
Okay. There are details in this building that do relate to other buildings in the village. I find that the building stands out much more than any other building that exists. However, I don't know, I'll take these one at a time here. I think that in time, the building is it's gonna be much more compatible with the village than it is right now, given that it's very green and very mahogany. But I think in time, it's going to fit a lot more than it does now, but I'm willing to go with that it fits enough in terms of materials.
Like the rest of it, it'll grow old gracefully.
Like what?
It'll grow old gracefully.
It'll grow old gracefully. And I think it fits enough.
You want to wait to the end?
I can go, I guess.
Okay.
I vote to approve this application. I think it fits with the character, or with the, character of the rest of the village. It contrasts a lot, but it's still related to the village and references its mix of architectural styles. I think the windows match the buildings nearby, and the roof line thoughtfully matches the building next to it. And also, it's maybe like one of the only modern buildings in the area, but soon it'll be a shipping museum, which will also be partially modern. So that will communicate. Is that good?
Okay. That's it? In one sense, it doesn't make any difference because it's three next to vote, but I will vote yes with hesitations. I do believe going over the determination factors, the only one that really jumps out that has to be considered is the visual compatibility with the surrounding area, because nothing else really is changing size, etc. I also think that some of that does not totally match the village. But I think if I, being an old-fashioned math teacher, I guess more than 51% says it does. So you got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Can I add
much.
something?
Yes.
I went down there and there's a lot of like blues and greens in that area, kind of all those surrounding buildings. So I think in that way, this like bluish green will change with it.
I will say, voting on this, it's not what I think I would like. It's what I've got to go by, what it says.
I understand.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Which is that it doesn't, to me, this panel doesn't fit. At least its size does not fit. I would like to see it reduced. Just, it jumps out to me, and
It's very
It's the
small,
shield.
actually.
I keep calling it a shield,
Just the
that's what it
shield.
looks like to me.
It looks to me like that, that's.
I mean, I looked at it and I kept thinking, that's where the old sign was.
Right.
In that location. And to me, that sign fit there. I didn't understand any reason. This to me is an element that is foreign to the village in terms of this plaque right there. If you had placed your sign back in that location instead.
Look, I appreciate your thoughtfulness. I think this is a great discussion. You know, just so you know, the railroad station was an inventive style of architecture. Didn't exist. That was called Richardsonian Romanesque. It was basically considered at that time a bastard variation of classical architecture. People didn't like it. They thought it was foreign. They thought it was things that we see now that feel, and that's why I think your comments are very apt. Because things that we see now that are really assimilated into our consciousness, like that train station, like Orana, were not liked at the time. They thought they were a little odd, a little extreme, but they were done by very significant people. And the train station was H.H. Richardson. Orana was,
what's his name?
he's a French guy. I'm a fairly significant architect, and we've experienced this. You know, the project gets done, it's startlingly new, it fits. you think very well, and then as time goes by, it becomes part of the community, it becomes loved, you know.
But this is an architectural element, a single element.
I think we're starting to get at what the board should be talking about, and
I just want
let's
to
get back to the, no, we have to vote. That was a roll call vote.
Yeah.
As you vote, you have to give your explanation as to why. So if I didn't, it passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, thank
I
you.
appreciate your thought on this all. Very
And
much.
thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. I'll tell my partner who does all of my chief operating officer, Dr. Ann Valentino. She's both a licensed psychologist, but also a historian and history scholar, so she prepares it.
I will tell you that part of the 51% was this presentation here.
Thank you.
That told me.
Yeah, you gotta be able to argue.
I'm sorry we submitted early, you
No
know,
problem.
we were trying to get it done on time. We generally, this is how we usually present.
So if we can get back to the business at hand, which is the agenda, if I can find my agenda. Yeah, thank you. So we covered all the old business, we covered the new business,
You're
we have the
But for
approval,
You're excused.
we have the approval of the minutes.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
I'll be on the minute.
Yes, no, I'll wait for you.
Approval of the minutes of October 28th, 2024.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve
Where
this.
are they?
Motion made to approve.
Yes, I have one quick change. Mitch Cosgrove's name is spelled wrong.
That was supposed to be changed, it didn't. I think
Okay,
you
so it's
got it.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, so that's.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, by the way.
You too.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Next one.
I'll abstain because I wasn't present.
Okay. By the way, you can still vote yes.
I'm gonna vote for something I wasn't present.
So, did you get that?
Yeah, right.
Aye.
Yes,
Abstain.
I got it.
Next planning board meeting, December 16th, 2024, rescheduled because of the original date being, this is the,
Okay.
Right.
the meeting place will be here, meeting is adjourned.